When I was just 14 years old, I met the man that I would eventually marry. We met through a mutual friend at the church that he attended, and 5 years later we started dating. A year after that, we got married. It was the perfect match. He was good looking. He came from a Christian family. I came from a Christian family. We were going to have 2 children because, after all, 2 children fit in the back seat of my car. They fit at our dining room table. 2 children and 2 parents fit on the rides at Disneyland. 2 children and 2 parents, every child would always have a lap to sit on. And I had this perfect little scenario all laid out that we were going to just live happily ever after. He came from some parents that didn't divorce. My parents didn't divorce. And so we were just going to enjoy the rest of our lives together. 2 years later, we had our first son. And then 3 years after that, our second son was born. Perfect. Everything I'd planned was falling into place. Then, just a few months after my second son was born, I found out I was pregnant with my third son. And I was devastated. Now my perfect little family was going to have to make adjustments. Yes, I had thanked God along the way for the blessings that He had given me, but I was declaring how it was going to be and then asking Him to bless it. I wasn't leaving room for Him to work in my life. And so now we were going to have to turn the car in and get something bigger. We ended up getting a minivan. There would always be an odd man out on those rides at Disneyland, and so on. 2 of the boys would have to share a bedroom. My husband and friends tried to convince me that this was a wonderful blessing, but it would take a long time before I would begin to realize what they were talking about. A year after my third son was born, I discovered that my husband was having an affair, and that shattered my world again. This just wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't in the plan. It wasn't part of my perfect little world. But it was at that time that I really started relying on God and having to depend on Him. The same week that I discovered he was having an affair, we also got the news that there was no more cancer treatment left for my dad. And the doctors were going to do all that they could do to keep him comfortable until he went home to be with Jesus. What was happening? The 2 men who were the rocks in my life were no longer there, but my Heavenly Father was. And he was solid. He is solid. He stood by me, and He was always there for me to turn to. And it was during this time that I just felt a surreal peace and comfort. I didn't have the answers. I didn't know what was going to happen to my family, but I knew that I had found some sort of peace and comfort in the Lord. A year later, my dad did pass away, and after 4 more years of struggling on our marriage, my husband left. The boys were 9, 6, and 5, and he filed for divorce. Where was that fairy tale? Where were the perfect little scenarios that I had dreamed about? They were just shattered. And again, though, God was there. He was, I think, laying the foundation for me to gain strength and to be able to have the foundation that I needed for the challenges that were to be before me. It was during this time that I continued to read the Word. I would read the Word with my children. I would tithe, fast, continue to go to church and Bible study, and God continued to strengthen us. I can remember my middle son praying the same prayer every night for a couple of years. Dear God, please help Daddy to come home because we miss him and he's doing the wrong thing. At such a young age, my children were also drawing strength on God. During this time, I lacked for nothing. It was just a couple of months after my husband left and filed for divorce that I was offered a teaching job which would allow me to take my children to school and pick them up from school. It gave me weekends and summers off. And so God was just providing for me and my children all along the way. And when I look back on that time and I count the blessings, it's just amazing. There was one day that an anonymous $500 check showed up in the mail. There was another time when a complete Thanksgiving dinner showed up on the front porch. And these were blessings that were tangible things for my children to see, also to realize how when we just wait on the Lord and don't plan out our days, He takes care of us. My boys and I created so many wonderful memories that I still treasure. And had their dad been there, we wouldn't have gone through these opportunities, I would call them. We learned how to go camping and set up a tent. The boys and I took snowboarding lessons together. They even have taught me some football plays, and we really bonded and learned to lean on each other, but mostly on the Lord. And when I look back on those times that I had planned all of my days, I think first and foremost about my third son, who I was just devastated about when I found out I was pregnant. He brought so much fun and laughter into our home that we would have missed out on had our family life gone according to my plan. In fact, since he was a baby, I've called him my ray of sunshine, and he still is. As a man, he lives every day for the Lord and serves Him with his whole heart. I'm now in my 19th year of teaching at that same job that God brought to me during my lowest point. And then just 5 years ago, God brought a new man into my life. A year and a half ago, we got married, and he's everything that I had prayed for. It's a relationship like I could not have dreamed, but when God brings the right person into your life and blesses it, it's just beyond your imagination. We read the Bible together and pray together every day. I love him, and he loves me even more in return. So you see, even though we think we know best and plan out our lives accordingly, it's important to give it over to God and wait and see what He has planned for you. James 1:2-4 says, "Count it joy when you face trials, because that develops your perseverance." And through these trials, I've learned perseverance, but more importantly, I have learned to wait on the Lord and to ask Him for what it is that He has planned for me, not to dictate to Him my plans and expect Him to bless them. Just as much as I love my children, He loves us. We're His children, and He wants what's best for us.